Awesome. So excited to have you now that we've had the session together to then get your feedback input on how it went for you. Um, so yeah, I guess we'll just start with that. So how do you feel? What do you feel like from how you were before to how you are now? Like what changed?
Okay, so so we were talking about fear and needing control, controlling my environment. And since then, I feel like I have been able to let go of that need for control. And I think what we discovered in the session was that the control was actually causing the fear,
Mm.
not the other way around of control trying to help the fear, right? So, um, definitely letting go of that need to control. So that feels good. So I've definitely felt, um, I would say the other big thing is this idea of taking responsibility for other people's emotions. I think that was a big one for me. And it Okay, so this is what I've been wanting to share with you because I think it's really exciting, is that on the call, I remember saying, you asked me at the beginning, like, how would you know if this was an awesome experience? And I said, I'd feel more confident and then I would also know like what the next step is. And even though I didn't necessarily figure out that next step on the call, what I think happened was I became much more receptive to other ideas and solutions because I had raised my frequency during that session. So since then, I have gotten new ideas. I feel like I'm more receptive. I feel like I'm just playing at a different level, like a different energy level. And
Yeah.
what I realized was in my business, I I love working one-on-one with people, and I happily work one-on-one with people if they find me. But I realized I wasn't seeking out people because I didn't want the responsibility. What I realized was I didn't want the responsibility of taking on their emotions, but I didn't realize that until our call. So once I realized, well, I don't have to take on the responsibility of anybody's emotions. That's not my job. That opened things up for me, and I can feel that I'm much more energetically ready to like set that intention to call in more clients because I know it's not about increasing my responsibility level. Like it's not about that at all. So I thought that was like kind of huge, like a huge realization that I had because I didn't know why I kind of didn't want one-on-one clients. Like I didn't want to go seek them out. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense because I love working one-on-one with clients and they're finding me and I'm enjoying it. So why wouldn't I? I put the two pieces together and that's what I realized.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a really big shift.
Yeah.
So how is that affecting you now?
Well, I would say like how I feel now is I feel more like myself. Like I can notice what like when I feel a certain way, it's like, wait a minute, are those my feelings? Is this what I want to feel? Am I picking up someone else's feelings? So I kind of feel like I've gotten to know myself better in a way. Um, or I can just distinguish between what's mine and what's not mine. So that has been nice. I find that I'm also putting myself out there a little bit more. So when in our session, remember when the light was shining out and I was like, wow, it actually feels safe to shine my light out. Like, so I have been finding that I'm, in small ways, but I'm putting myself out there and it feels good. Um, and let's see what else. Yeah, I think I already mentioned the other things. Just just the number of realizations. So I went back to the recording and listened to it. I couldn't believe the number of realizations I had throughout the call. Like it wasn't just like one, it was one after the other after the other. So I thought that was awesome. Like I got so much out of it.
Awesome. Oh, it's so great to hear. Um, gosh, I had a couple more questions. I already answered all my questions. What new possibilities opened up for you that you didn't know were possible before?
I would say a relationship with my higher self. Like
Mm,
we always talk about our inner being and our higher self, and we always talk about it. And I always hear coaches talk about it, and it's like I logically get it. But during our session, I had like what felt like an intimate conversation with my higher self. So that was really new. And just this like collaboration and knowing that I can call on her. And I loved when you asked me, well, what does she think? Because I think I said, I don't want to be told that I have to do something or something like that. And you said, well, does your higher self ever feel like she has to do something? Like, so just being able to like check in with her, like I never thought about that before. So I loved that. Um, and again, like this whole idea that these emotions weren't mine. I mean, that just mind blown on that one. Like I keep coming back to that. So I had been carrying these emotions my whole life and these beliefs about myself my whole life. And then, when you kind of pointed out to me, well, you asked me, are those yours or are those someone else's? Like at first, I'm like, well, of course they're mine. Like I just assumed they were. But yeah, because again, you hear, oh, you can pick up others people's emotions, right? You hear that all the time. But I didn't really get it until you asked me that question. Like, and then it became so like, oh my God, yeah, I'm doing that. Like, that's not just a concept out here. It's actually like something that I was currently doing. That was crazy.
yeah, yeah. One of the things I'm hearing from you is like the difference between like intellectual ideas, like thinking about the higher self, knowing, like thinking this idea that you could take people's emotions, and then the experience of like interacting with the higher self in that moment, and the experience of like feeling those emotions, being like, wait, like how'd these get here? What are these? And
Yeah.
then in that moment, it's like, oh, I can release them. Like I don't have a reason to keep these feelings.
Yeah, exactly. And releasing them was easy. Like it was just a decision. So once I made the decision, and then also that idea of, all right, well, now that these are gone, what are you filling that space with? Like I never took it to that level either. I never thought of that. Like, but it all makes sense, right? Because now there's a void. So what's going to fill that space?
Yeah, the higher self provides that feeling.
Hmm. Yeah. And the whole thing was tangible. You kept saying like emotions are like experiential. Like this is an experiential experience. Oh, that kind of sounds weird, but like I I felt it the whole way through. Um like, and I wasn't just making stuff up. Like I really, everything I said was like what kind of dropped in or what I was feeling. Like I experienced it the whole way through. But you always caught when I said, well, I think something. And then you're like, wait a minute, I'm not asking you what you think. I'm asking you, how does she feel or how do you feel? So I really appreciated always coming back to that. That was an excellent reminder.
Yeah, yeah. The feelings is really where you're experiencing, well, like you said, like experiencing what you're experiencing. It's like the
Yeah.
feeling is the experience.
Yeah, exactly.
I have another question here. Um, well, would you recommend it for someone else?
Oh my God, in a heartbeat. Yeah. I mean, you obviously have to be ready and willing to look at things and to feel into things. But what I really appreciated about you was that, you held such beautiful space and you held that high frequency the whole time. Like there was no wavering of that high frequency. So I appreciate that. And You repeated back to me, like you reflected back to me some things that I was saying, which was very helpful. And you encouraged me to like keep feeling, and you gave me that time. Like you never rushed me. I never felt rushed. And um, you knew kind of when to pause and then when to keep asking questions. Like there were some pauses, but you knew that I was like feeling into something. So like that was so helpful. And you were just so encouraging. You were with me, supported me every step of the way. So I mean, you literally took my hand and like led me in and said, "You're doing great. You're doing great. This is exactly what should be happening. You're doing great." And then you led me through. Like I really feel like it was very well supported.
Oh, amazing. So glad you feel that way. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Just like taking that as like great compliments. Um,
Yeah.
is there anything you want to add to any of this? Anything you feel is important? Anything you want to share? Anyone listening, you want them to know something?
Well, the things that I'm going to remember from this experience, I wrote down four things.
Mm,
That I take on other people's feelings to control the environment, and how it's just not necessary to do that anymore. And that was a big thing. I don't need to control. In fact, the control is what caused the fear, like that huge. This idea of continuously stepping into my higher self, to continuously tune into her and like converse with her. Like, what do you think? I'm thinking this, or I'm feeling this. How do you feel? Right? See, I caught myself. um, and and then you also kind of brought it to the next level towards the end of our call when we were reflecting. I said that I often think about how I feel. Like you caught me thinking about how I feel, and then you said, I wonder what that means about your relationships. So just thinking
mm.
about how I interact with others. Am I paying attention to what I think they're feeling? Or am I actually tuning into their feelings and like feeling what they're feeling? Right. So not being so logical with others as well. Like that's an interesting thing to play with moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a distinction in experience between like how things feel, how we feel around others, how others feel to us, and then what we think is happening.
Right. And those could be two completely different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that was kind of all about me, like things that I'll remember, but in terms of like moving forward with other clients, and what I would suggest for them is like if they're ready to definitely jump in with you and have a session and really feel what it feels like, because you're right, like I understood everything conceptually, but once I was in there I felt like I was in the trenches, like but in a good way. And I was in there, and that's when you can really feel it. So I would say if anybody's ready to kind of feel it and you really want to make changes, because I really do feel like this has changed me. And I'm not like reverting back, because I think you touched base with me maybe like 2 days after our call, and I said, "Wow, I just feel so empowered and so confident." And all of these things, all these like insights I had, or these conclusions that I drew about, not needing to control anymore and the fear, like it's not like I'm reverting back and I feel it all over again. Like it's a permanent shift. And sure, there are going to be more aspects. I'm sure other things could come up, but that doesn't mean that our work together didn't work or didn't take. You know what I mean? Like that was a permanent change. I truly feel that.
Fantastic. Yeah, yeah. When you really go in and do the deep inner work and bring in the higher self and have that experience of the feeling of it occurring, it really changes something. There's something about like the actual experience of it that makes those lasting changes.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it does feel that way for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Um,
thank you.
oh yeah, you're very welcome. My pleasure. So thank you for taking the time to share and to experience this. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.